Welcome to This Explainer. You know, sometimes real life writes a script way better than Hollywood ever could. Today, we're diving into what the source material literally calls a cold-blooded geopolitical thriller, except it's playing out right on the soccer pitch. We're unpacking the unprecedented Omar Artan affair. The reporting argues that this single event completely shattered the illusion of global soccer governance, and it all revolves around one man's stolen dream. Seriously, when we dig into these texts, it forces us to ask, what actually happens when international border security collides head-on with the biggest sporting event on the planet?
Well, we start the story with just four incredibly dismissive words: chill and relax. According to the reporting, this was the literal response from the head of global soccer, delivered straight from the comfort of a climate-controlled Miami VIP suite. When faced with a massive, rapidly unfolding human and diplomatic crisis, one involving one of the sport's very own top-ranking officials, the institutional instruction to the entire world was simply to look the other way. It's kind of wild, right? A pretty stark reminder for all of us about how massive corporations handle a crisis when the cameras aren't rolling.
But I want you to contrast that super relaxed, executive attitude with a scene taking place 5,000 miles away. Over in a Mogadishu stadium, a nation formed a human shield of dignity around a heartbroken 34-year-old man who had just been treated like an international fugitive. That man is Omar Artan. To the people of Somalia, he wasn't just some referee. He was a beacon of hope, a guy who overcame unimaginable odds, left home to chase the ultimate professional dream, and was then completely rejected by the exact same system that promoted him in the first place.
So let's back up to Section 1, the Miami Airport interrogation. June 6, 2026. To fully grasp how this international incident kicked off, we really have to look at the sheer mountain of vetting Omar Artan had already passed. He didn't arrive in the US as a tourist. He arrived as certified soccer royalty. He was literally handpicked by FIFA as one of the elite 52 officials trusted to govern the 2026 World Cup. Think about this. He had the title of an African Referee of the Year, held a valid international visa, carried a diplomatic passport, and had all his official credentials. On paper, a thoroughly vetted ambassador of the global game. But according to the sources to Border Protection, one single detail overrode his entire life's work: his birthplace, Somalia.
The timeline of events lays out a grueling 72-hour ordeal where a lifetime of sacrifice was suddenly erased. The moment he landed in Miami, the bright lights of the host city were swapped for a windowless interrogation room. For 11 straight hours, border agents weren't asking him about soccer rules or match fitness. Instead, he faced a relentless, terrifying cross-examination focused entirely on the extremist group Al-Shabaab. And then, denied entry. No further explanation, no recourse. This elite athlete was just marched onto a commercial flight and summarily deported to Istanbul.
Which brings us to Section 2, FIFA's illusion of inclusivity, and what the texts call a corporate betrayal.
What's super fascinating here is the stark juxtaposition highlighted in the text. We've got multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns crashing right into a completely hands-off, bureaucratic reality. For years, the global governing bodies sold the 2026 tournament to fans and sponsors with this grand promise of absolute inclusivity and a borderless celebration. Sounds amazing, right? Yet the very second one of their own top-tier officials was profiled and rejected at the border, the organization immediately hid behind a legally bulletproof disclaimer. They basically said they do not interfere with host nation immigration laws, effectively washing their hands of Omar Artan before his flight even touched down in Turkey.
And remember those words, chill and relax? The source material points out that when the global president was directly asked about a top-tier official getting deported, his instruction to just chill revealed an unbridgeable chasm between proclaimed corporate values and actual behavior. The analysis doesn't just call this a staggering off-the-cuff dismissal, they actually call it a Freudian slip of corporate sports syndicates. The authors argue it perfectly exposes exactly how large sporting monopolies behave the moment their meticulously crafted PR values are tested by a real human crisis.
Let's move to Section 3, UEFA's institutional counterstrike. Salzburg strikes back. So, while headquarters in Zurich and Miami chose to look the other way, European football's governing body responded just 24 hours later with what the sources describe as a calculated and devastating institutional counterstrike. Get this, UEFA completely blindsided FIFA by appointing Artan to referee the 2026 UEFA Super Cup. If you follow sports, you know the magnitude of this.
This decision made him the very first referee from the African continent in history to command a major European final. UEFA bypassed the global hierarchy completely, reached directly into Africa, and handed this rejected official the keys to one of the biggest, most globally broadcast club matches in the world. Talk about a statement.
According to the analysis, the public statement from the UEFA president was an unyielding validation of Artan's stolen World Cup spot. By explicitly saying they wanted to show respect and referencing his prestigious nomination, UEFA was telling the world, loud and clear, that the Miami vetting concerns were completely illegitimate. The text suggests UEFA wasn't just handing out a consolation prize to a wronged man here. No, they were staging a masterful piece of political theater against their rivals at FIFA, firmly affirming that Artan's talent absolutely belonged on the highest stage.
Now, if you know global sports politics, you know how incredibly rare it is to see two rival continental confederations openly join forces against the global governing body. But this exact move sparked an unprecedented public alliance. The president of the Confederation of African Football released an emotionally charged statement confirming Artan's world-class status and publicly thanked the head of UEFA, Alexander Chefrin, by name. The underlying message was crystal clear. If the global body won't protect its own officials, the continental confederations will step up and do it themselves.
Let's dive into Section 4, Systemic World Cup Failures. Because as we'll see, this was not an isolated glitch.
As the sources note, Omar's story isn't just a one-off. It's actually the tipping point. The reporting uncovers a whole operational and diplomatic minefield stretching across the tournament. Check this out. Iran saw its entire ticket allocation revoked and 14 delegates denied visas. Switzerland's star player Briel Embolo had his travel unexpectedly flagged. An Iraqi striker was detained for 7 hours, and their team photographer was straight up deported. Meanwhile, European fans are busy filing monopoly abuse lawsuits, and 8 UEFA delegates literally walked out of a FIFA council meeting. The texts argue this paints a pretty dark picture of a massive event deeply compromised by national border security, where the actual participants of the beautiful game are treated as secondary liabilities.
All of this brings us to Section 5. True authority in global soccer, words versus actions. This sparks a really fascinating philosophical debate at the center of the source material. Where does true authority actually live? The texts argue that perceived authority is simply about who controls the trademarks, the lucrative TV rights, and those bulletproof legal disclaimers. But true institutional authority, that is defined by your willingness to stand up for the values you claim to represent when the pressure is real. While FIFA hid behind legalities, UEFA utilized their crown jewel asset to transform a humiliated young man into a historic symbol of global solidarity. It really makes you wonder if actions truly speak louder than human rights charters.
Yet, through all of this intense geopolitical maneuvering, the sources highlight that Artan himself handled the entire catastrophe with unmatched grace. He reminded everyone that the human element is what truly matters in this sport. Refusing to be broken by an 11-hour interrogation or the pure indignity of a forced deportation, his public response was incredibly composed. He accepted the situation as simply fate and kept his eyes firmly fixed on the future. He declared with absolute certainty that he will be on the pitch for the next World Cup cycle. You really have to admire that kind of resilience.
Fast forward to August 12, 2026 in Salzburg, Austria. The source material suggests that history will remember the opening weekend of this tournament cycle not for what happened on the grass in America, but for an office in Salzburg that protected the game's integrity. When the stadium lights turn on for Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa, Omar Artan will proudly walk out to the center circle. He got there the hardest way imaginable, ultimately elevated by a European executive who simply refused to look the other way when a colleague was wronged.
So I'll leave you with this provocative thought from the source material to ponder in the comments. When you look at everything we've unpacked today in this explainer, was UEFA's lightning-fast appointment of Artan an act of genuine moral conviction? Or was it a brilliant, masterclass political chess move designed to embarrass their rivals? Can a tournament truly be called a global celebration if its own thoroughly vetted heroes aren't guaranteed safe passage? Let me know your thoughts down below. And hey, don't forget to like and subscribe for more uncompromising explainers. Until next time, keep your eyes on the game and never just look at the scoreboard.